Everfree Guardian, Chapter 8, Part 2. The main six smiled, momentarily relieved that an old power that once stood tall with Princess Alessia had returned to her full grace. Princess Luna turned her eyes back to the human.
I seeth yon thou hath brought with thee an ally in thy journey.
Princess Luna strode to the human, standing tall with her hands folded in front of her.
What is thy nameth?
Nate tilted his head slightly at the old Shakespearean-styled English this pony was speaking in, his confusion in her speech established in the first word she spoke. Nevertheless, he shook himself out of it and stared up at her, still in a stance as he was still unsure and certain being this close to royalty. I'm Nate Schmidt, the alleged Everfree Guardian, as ponies call me.
Everfree Guardian? I hath heard of yon nameth, as well as thy exploits within the town of Ponyville and the forest itself.
She bowed her head to him.
I giveth thee my own utmost and sincerest gratitude. Thy actions hast spared the livelihood of many of mine own sister's subjects. Thy skill and prowess art something to regard highly.
The human blinked at the princess before him. He was expecting her to reprimand, or even have him arrested on the spot upon hearing his title. Even his honesty in giving a full name that was apparently aberrant compared to the rest of the citizens in this nation would have risen that red flag immediately. Instead, she was thanking him? That alone was wrong. I didn't do it cleanly, princess. I've done a lot of bad things for right reasons since I've gotten here. You shouldn't be thanking me for that. Princess Luna rose her head again, staring down at the Everfree Guardian with a sympathetic tint in her eyes.
'Tis true. Yonder thy approach to the countless situations thou hast found yourself in hast been less than ideal. But despite our laws, wars and attrition are not uncommon here.
She rose her hand, showing a mural that detailed Equestria surrounded by other countries that often invaded. Dragons, griffins, yaks, minotaurs, centaurs, even close cousins like horses were all pointing their blades and claws towards Equestria.
As thee can seeth in this mural, ponykind hast faced many dangers and threats from outside its borders. Creatures of all shapes and sizes invaded our harmonic lands, seeking to corrupt it with their owneth desires and ruleth.
I've seen some of these creatures in the Everfree, and one in Ponyville. What I don't understand is why. Every situation I've seen these ponies being threatened, the other creatures acted assertive, and in the worst cases, sexually aggressive towards ponies.
'Tis because of what we art.
Nate looked back up at Luna as they followed the rest back towards the vault. What you are?
Ponies art creatures madeth from the aspects of loveth, friendship, and positivity. We art menteth to represent the harmony itself, despite our flaws. As such, yon harmony charm gifts our bodies with incredible features and traits, such as... well...
The Moon Princess glanced down at her chest, placing a hand on top of them as a light tinge of pink made her face contrast with the rest of her navy blue coat.
I'm sure thou can guesseth.
Guess? I've been living with it, princess. I know plenty about why these sick fucks chase after ponies, but now that you've mentioned this, I'm gonna assume it's more than pleasure they're after.
Indeed. Because of the charm yon flows through our veins, our bodies are madeth to be compatible with every species on this planet. Dragons, griffins, whatever the liketh. Our harmonic power blesses our children with the same gifts and traits. And in the act of bonding, yon charm can did spread to those who've grown closest to their pony companions.
So, in other words, creatures capture and commit these crimes on ponies for their power? Their magic not only passes off to offspring, but gives more power to non-pony creatures? The human hummed as he glanced down at the floor. That explains the dragons, then. That breeding den Nate found on the mountain wasn't for ponies to birth foals. It was for them to take their magic and use it to lay dragon eggs. From what he's read, dragons can reproduce their eggs asexually. They don't need to be female in order to do it. Any one of them can. And with such raw power existing within ponies, it makes so much more sense as to why these creatures wanted to get their hands on them so badly. But now that begged the question, what about this new threat that's spreading madness across the kingdom? Is it after ponies for the same reason? Princess Celestia looks back at them, shaking her head.
No. This old foe of ours, someone who we thought we had defeated long ago, has returned for a vastly different purpose. His name is Discord.
The group stopped at the end of the hall, standing before the vault doors. Princess Luna and Nate Schmidt stood off to the side, as the elements were all lined up before the Sun Princess. Celestia turned to them, keeping herself between the group and the sealed entrance behind her.
Discord is a mischievous spirit of disharmony. Before my sister and I stood up to him, he ruled Equestria in a perpetual state of unrest and unhappiness. Luna and I saw how miserable life was for earth ponies, pegasi, and unicorns alike. So, after discovering the elements of harmony, we combined our power and rose up against him, turning him to stone.
Celestia closed her eyes, giving out a light sigh of disdain and frustration as she brought a hand up to her forehead.
I thought the spell we cast would contain him forever. But since Luna and I are no longer connected to the elements, the spell has been broken.
Twilight blinked as she walked forward a bit.
No longer connected?
Princess Luna nodded, casting a longing and remorseful stare towards the vault.
Unfortunately, 'tis so. Where we are to none is Canterlot Tower, where the elements of harmony are hath kept inside.
Celestia lowered her hand from her face, her steeled expression set solely on her pupil.
Twilight, I need you and your friends to wield the elements of harmony once again and stop Discord before he thrusts Equestria into eternal chaos. But why us? You and Princess Luna were once wielders of the elements of harmony. You say that you no longer have a connection, but surely some remnants of that magic is still there? I wish I could say it was, Twilight. But while I am able to unlock the element's power and use it to an extent, you six were able to unlock the untapped potential and true nature of the elements. That is what allowed my sister to return from the nightmarish haze that was her darkened form. You control that power, Twilight, and it is you who must defeat Discord.
The princess flared out her wings, giving a sense of finality in her speech as the main six absorbed what was told to them. Nodding to one another, Twilight turned back to her teacher.
Princess Celestia, you can count on—
A sudden tremor shook the entire tower as a large object came scraping through it. Ducking down onto a knee, Nate pulled Luna down with him as a chunk of an entirely different building slammed into the castle, and tore off half of the tower. Watching that building float away, the ponies rose from their prone as Nate stood up first, walking to the edge and looking out into the city. It was even worse than before. Ponies were now dead and laying in the streets. The Royal Guard was tearing apart the citizens and each other.
The situation is much worse than I thought.
Princess Celestia stared out at the sky, watching as Equestria's landmarks appeared and floated within the atmosphere.
It seems Discord's reach has already grasped the concept of reality. If this continues for much longer, then it's only a matter of time before this reality suffers a fracture, and serious consequences will permanently damage Equestria. We must act quickly.
Celestia strode towards the vault, quickly engaging her magic and seeping it into the central conduit. Stepping back as the several runic symbols shone with a bright yellow hue, the vault doors slowly opened, revealing a chest inside. One rarity found alluring in itself.
Ooh, you can keep the elements. I want that case.
Celestia momentarily smiled at her subjects' antics, opening the case and presenting the elements of harmony before them.
Have no fear, ponies. I have total confidence that you will be able to defeat Discord. Now, don your elements once.
She stopped herself when she felt a lack of radiance causing from the box upon opening it. Seeing the wide eyes of her subjects, Celestia turned the case around and dropped it in shock. Staring at the empty box, everyone was agape in awe, unable to move from the sheer fact that the elements were missing. Even Luna had her jaw dropping to the floor. Nate, on the other hand, looked down at the box, kneeling beside it and lifting it up by its lid. Standing with it still in his grasp, he looked up at Celestia. So, do we have a plan B? Another moment of silence as he dropped the case back onto the floor. the princess of the day now pacing back and forth as Twilight recovered from her shock, her wide eyes never leaving the case.
The elements! They're gone! How?
Celestia bit her lip as she stared down at the floor, worry settling into her expression as the elements of harmony were the only real weapons that could pierce the chaos that riddled her land.
That chamber is protected by a powerful spell only I can break. This doesn't make sense.
Just as she spoke these words, a haunting and chilling tone echoed throughout the hall, a booming laughter catching everyone's attention. Nate was quick to draw out his shotgun, aiming it up and around the room as that chill immediately set off his sense of danger.
Makes sense? What fun is there in making sense?
That crazed voice of a familiar foe drew Celestia's attention as she turned to her right, seeing the Discord illustration on the murals begin to move.
Discord. I should have figured you'd show up here. You have a taste for leaving your mark wherever chaos erupts.
She mockingly rose an eyebrow as she crossed her arms under her bust, as the imitation came to life, blinking and stretching before staring back at the monarch.
Are you heading away with portraits now? I was expecting you to slink up from the carpets.
The glass copy shrugged as it swam around the picture.
Oh, well, we can't have everything we want in life, my dear princess. After all, I was turned to stone. Quite lonely in there, I must say.
Celestia only snorted as Princess Luna glared at the monstrosity.
What hast thou done with the elements of harmony?
Discord's painted image jolted in surprise at the voice of the younger monarch, his eyes blinking as he looked over at her.
Princess Luna? Well, this is certainly a surprise. Oh, here I thought you were still imprisoned in the moon. What a lovely reunion this is.
He swam in a small loop around the frame, chuckling to himself as he rolled his wrist.
I borrowed the elements for a little while. Figured I could use them for some sort of mantle. Or maybe decorations on a torch to celebrate my return.
He sighed as he preens the nails on the end of his talon claw.
So many choices, but only so little time.
The princesses both glared hatefully at the amalgamation as they swam into another windowed portrait.
Ooh, those eyes. They stare deeply into my soul.
Discord sighed as he rested upon the moon in the frame, giving the princess a dull look.
Over several hundred years, and you're still as dull and grim as I last saw you two. It's really quite boring.
Hey! No pony insults the princess!
Rainbow Dash barreled towards the window, smashing her fist through it as Discord disappeared. Reappearing in another mural close by, he snickered at the failed attempts to strike him before eyeing up the mare who assaulted him.
Oh, you must be Rainbow Dash. Famed for her loyalty, the elements of harmony you represent.
Damn straight! I'll never turn my back on my friends!
Discord rose an eyebrow in question, before focusing on Rarity, who waved him off.
I can't believe we're wasting our time arguing with a tacky window.
Oh, the lovely Rarity, elements of generosity herself. And the rest of the elements of harmony too. Honest Applejack, kind Fluttershy, magical Twilight Sparkle, oh, and my personal favorites, the elements of laughter, Pinkie Pie.
All of the main six glared at the Draconiquus as Celestia gritted her teeth, her mane flicking with bouts of sunny embers. Her patience was wearing thin, and it was evidence that an angry Princess Celestia was a scary one, as even Princess Luna backed away from her. But before she could shout at him, her voice was cut off as Discord recognized another figure in the room.
I'm so sick of Discord, I could just fuck him.
I don't know why I say these things.
Oh, but I know Nate was looking at my tits.
Okay, let's get on to our exceptional donators. Top donators are 630, Only One Thing, Ceru Orion, and IronSky. Darkside, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Stu Hex, Swordbrother, Mordred, Omicron, Lare, Will Chris, Twinkie, Rizel, Badass Waffle, Shadow Moon, Luigi88, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke 369, Bobcat GJF, Anthony Stagg, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.